Hi everyone, my name is Catherine. Today I'm posting this video as a first documentation of my journey dealing with lupus, an autoimmune condition, and mental health as well, and how my life has been since I was diagnosed back in September of 2024. This this condition has changed my life in a very drastic way, and what I wouldn't expect, and has really forced me to learn a lot of new things and to adjust my daily life in ways I never thought I would have to yet, or until I got much older. As you can see, if you see through the camera, my lupus very heavily affects my skin. People with lupus, well, most people with lupus, have photosensitivity, in which they are very sensitive to UV light, so they can't stay in the sun for too long. Or in my case, which I just found out recently, I can't be in the sun at all for the most part. Back in 2024, when I got my first symptom of lupus that was noticeable, I got my the butterfly rash. That is a very common symptom of lupus that a lot of people have. Now, it's not the only symptom. A lot of symptoms, the symptoms would be fatigue, brain fog, joint pain, swelling, even fluid retention, different things like that. They're different symptoms, and each person is a little bit different. Now, before my diagnosis, I actually have heard of lupus, but never really understood or knew all the symptoms that came with it. I know there were some famous people that had lupus, and some people who have had to have organ transplants because of the damage it does to you, but I also knew that it was rare. But even then, even though I heard it and I heard about it through the commercials for medication, I didn't really know too much about it. At first, back in 2024, my ears developed a rash and they started to ooze out. To sound kind of gross. Some parts of this video is going to be some little gross. And it starts to ooze. So I went to urgent care. They went and tested me and we're thinking, oh, it's an ear infection or a skin infection on the ears, which it actually was because I actually did have the bacteria. However, it could not explain the rash as it went across my face. Later to come and find out, the butterfly rash was actually on my ears and my face, and had an ear infection at the same time. So that was wild. I stopped going to the gym at that point because I was literally oozing onto things. It was nasty, but I was still going to work. I just bandaged up my ears. I also had the rash on my arms, and I still even have some of the markings from back in 2024, which is a little bit darker. The lighter marks you see here are from earlier this year. Back in 2024, it only was on my face, my ears, and my arms. This year, it's all over my body. And so that's when I learned, okay, I have lupus. The doctor urgent care referred me to a doctor or dermatologist at the Skin Cancer Research Center here in Georgia. And thank God that was a blessing to get it like that. And they did a biopsy. We waited some time and found out I definitely have lupus. And the dermatologist that helps me out, or who I work with, also has dealt with many lupus patients, apart from the other patients she has with other conditions. So I was put on medicine, a hydroxychloroquine, and I was told to limit my time in the sun, manage stress, make sure you don't overwork yourself too much, eat healthily. Which a good thing was I actually was doing those things, working and staying fit. Being fit is another big thing that helps keep down the inflammation in the body. Because apart from those things, I also had chest pains and shortness of breath. One of the main reasons I actually even went to the gym prior to this was because of the chest pain and shortness of breath that I had. And the gym helped with that greatly. It almost completely covered that whole issue. So I thought I was doing well. I thought I was fine. And for most of that year, I was fine. I was okay. I even also deal with anxiety and depression, which later that year I was actually diagnosed with major depressive disorder after a very traumatic episode that landed me in a psych ward for a week. So that was a big one. But even when I was in the gym, I was fit. despite all the other things that was happening, even though I was stressed out, I was okay. Things were managed. My symptoms actually went away up until that September, in which the butterfly rash actually popped up. That completely changed a lot of things. And so from then on, I actually avoided the gym and I avoided the fitness and I avoided people because it looked so stark and I was embarrassed. I thought it looked infectious. The ear infection, I went away with antibiotics. That was fine. But the butterfly rash, though, that took a very long time to go away. And lupus is not, it's not contagious. You can't pass it on. But people don't know that. On top of that, lupus is not the only condition that has a butterfly rash. There's a multitude of conditions that have butterfly rashes, including like psoriasis and eczema. Funny enough, I have had eczema since I was born, so it could have been either one of those two. And in this case, though we confirmed that it was definitely the lupus. So that was a roller coaster ride for me, because I ended up going to the urgent care more than once. I went to the emergency room for a panic attack later on because I was freaking out about it, and I could not. My legs were, almost couldn't feel them, and I was literally hyperventilating. After the fact, I realized, okay, it was in fact a panic attack, and I was dramatizing how bad it could have been because I've heard of other people who had lupus. One of which is a famous doctor, Dr. Brooke Goldner, who had to get a kidney transplant at 16. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, what if I'm as far along as that? I was not. They checked my organs were fine. Those things were all fine. My blood work was fine. It was, the only thing that they did find wrong, though, was my antibodies and the D-dimer, which is what they measure for blood clots, but also could be a measure for autoimmune condition. And what was supposed to be about 50 and under was close to 5,000. So that was another shock right there. I realized, oh, things are not doing well. So that was terrifying. But also I was relieved to find out, at least I know that my organs weren't like already, super damaged or damaged at all, really. And that we caught this disease at a very good time. So I thank God for that. And I'm so thankful that we had the people here, and people here to help me out. This was a shock, and then I became even more anxious or more almost depressed after finding out that lupus and other autoimmune conditions can in fact be stress related, or I should say can be exacerbated by stress. And later found out that all kinds of autoimmune diseases tend to show up in people who have been under levels of stress for a long period of time. And I was thinking back to all the ways in which I have been stressed out, because I was thinking, I even had the crazy idea, or almost convinced myself that, and to think that, oh my gosh, did I give myself lupus? Did I cause my own disease? I know that's not true, but I genuinely believed it for a moment, and I was freaked out when my mom had to I told my mom she had to have a conversation with me about that one. Because lupus is these diseases, you don't give them to yourself. They are developed over time, and it has to do with the environment, stressors, genetics may be a part of it, but it's all these different things are involved. And for lupus in particular, it's the immune system that has gone out of whack in a way. The immune system, instead of just attacking the bad cells, it attacks the bad and the good cells. So that's really what that one does. And there's different kinds of lupus too. Mine in particular is a blistering kind, which explains all of these marks on my body, because I was in the sun too much this year. And back in 2024, it was not this bad. And all of last year, I was out of a job. I actually quit my job because of how bad this got, and because I was stressed out with college, the job, trying to get into an internship. Because one big thing is you thinking about right now is that we know that you should get an internship, and I major in IT. So big thing is, if you want to get a job, or what you're told is that you must get an internship. So I had a job for 3.5 years. So I had that on my resume, but I didn't have an internship related to my major. And I was thinking, dang, I need to get one. I was also supposed to graduate in 2024. And by 2023, I knew I was going to graduate because I had messed up some things with my classes. I even had to repeat certain classes more than once. I failed calculus twice, passed the third time with a D, but I needed a C in order to get to another class. So it wasn't even for the major, it was actually for this other class I needed a C as a requirement. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, what is wrong with you? Also, in high school, I made all A's and B's. I prided myself on that. I took AP classes. I prided myself on these things. And then in college, that my grade streak went down the toilet. I failed my first classes. I repeated more than one class, and I was like, wow. I'm also someone who procrastinates, and I knew I did that because I did in high school, but in high school, I kept my grades up. And I even did clubs. I did those things. I was able to still do those things and figure it out. I even went to tutoring when I really needed it, even though I probably should have went earlier. But I had these things. I had anxiety. I had those type of things in high school, but it was not the same in college. College was a whole different thing. I didn't realize how much responsibility or how much work college would actually be. And I didn't get my first job until 2021. I graduated in 2020 from high school. And I also did not have a good habit of time management and prioritization. I eventually started prioritizing my job and entertainment over the schooling. Big mistake on my part. Big mistake. And that was actually another thing that added to the stress I had, was the fact that my grades are dropping. And then I would go back and try to bring my grade up. I would go to tutoring. I would get help. And in some classes, it worked. With calculus, not so much. I didn't always do my homework. And then when I did do my homework, I had a very hard time understanding things, because for me, algebra was a struggle for me. Geometry was fine, but algebra in particular was a struggle. And I would go to tutoring where I actually would get help, and it still did not stick for me. So clearly, I needed extra help, and I was not understanding certain things. So while I was passing my other classes and going through those, that class in particular, calculus 1, was an issue for me. And that also, and it just so happens that because of my grades dropping, I actually did end up losing financially and losing a scholarship. And I was so disappointed in myself. I was ashamed that even happened, that I let something like that happen. And it was horrible. At least I felt horrible. I felt like it was almost like the end of the world for me. Because I'm in a STEM degree, I needed that class. I actually went from mechanical engineering to IT. And originally I was in mechanical engineering because I wanted to be a car designer. I love to draw. I've done art all through high school, and I've been drawing since I was a child. And I decided in middle school I want to be a car designer. Well, you kind of have to be, how to explain it, be focused, be technical, but also creative to do that. And I learned that mechanical engineering was a great pathway to car designing. Then I realized, I could barely handle the math. Everything else was okay. Even the software was fine. Learning the software was fine. The math was a problem. So I thought, okay, maybe make it a little bit easier for myself and go for IT. And I even decided to abandon the idea of being a car designer at that point for something else, something more, like, still tech related, because I love technology, but something that wasn't as intricate or as complex as engineering. But basically, I ended up learning some software engineering, doing IT. So I still had engineering anyways. And so I went for that. And the IT also has other challenges, but different ones. Ones I thought I could handle better than engineering. But then I also didn't realize I also had some other issues going on. So needless to say, there was a lot of stress in my life the years prior to this diagnosis, which is why I thought, and why I blamed myself and thought it was I who caused my lupus, because that's one of the biggest correlations: stress and autoimmune diseases. And it wasn't just lupus; it's almost all of them. And who that has not necessarily causation, but a correlation. So that was a big one that I brought, and it didn't help that I'm also someone. I've had a long mental health battle with different things, and it's taken a while to actually get diagnosed for some of these. And I'm actually still awaiting an evaluation for something else I've got. Um, it takes some time to get it, but I'm still waiting an evaluation to get to just to see what else could be going on with me. I've gotten a lot of help. I've been in therapy. I've been on meds. I've done meds for depression and anxiety, which have helped greatly. And I was actually afraid to go on medication before because I thought, oh my gosh, Catherine, you need to handle yourself. I'm also a Christian. And in my mind, I'm thinking if, based on what I've heard, I would even look things up on YouTube. And that's another thing I did. I also was on social media a lot and reading the comment sections, too much hearing people's opinions. And especially when it came to the religious side, I've heard people who talk about they cure their depression, cure their anxiety, and their mental illnesses with prayer and fasting. So I thought, okay, if you just did enough, you could get rid of your problems. Fasting, I wasn't really too big on fasting, even though I did it. I actually did it one time. The prayer though, I would pray every day, and even though I would pray every day, my relationship with God was going down the toilet. I was becoming distant from Him. I almost felt like He couldn't hear me, and for a moment I was mad at Him. And then eventually I actually became mad at myself and thinking maybe He's mad with me. And the reason why some of my issues, I have some of these issues because I was doing something and this was my punishment for these issues. I know now, no, that is not the right way to think of that. That is not even necessarily biblical. That's not biblical at all. But I was that far gone into that thinking for years. I was unhappy for a very long time. So all of these things I thought were cause and contributed to maybe the reason as to why I developed lupus. Um, After the lupus diagnosis and after the traumatic incident, which I may talk about at some point, the traumatic incident or episode I had that landed me in the psych ward, I didn't finally was evaluated in some way or to an extent. Um, it was a mixed co-ed space. It was very interesting experience actually. I was terrified, but I was also relieved because I was getting help. And I actually was too afraid to ask for help in other ways because it's not like I was in therapy. My mom even paid for therapy for us before, but I realized in therapy prior to this event, I did not feel comfortable enough to actually tell the therapist what was everything that was going on. There were a lot of things that went on in my family that were very heavy, very traumatic in a way. Not physically, but more verbally and mentally. I am the oldest of three kids. My parents were divorced when I'm back in 2013, and I've been living we live with my mom, and I'm the oldest, and I help take care of my siblings, and so it's which is a typical situation for a lot of families in this country. So nothing like anything extra unique or anything like that, but that was also a part of what was going on. And my family is very loving. They are very loving people, but they're also really busy. They're stressed out, and they work very hard. And I wanted to make sure I could do anything I can to help them out. So when I fell short, or when I more like when I got to college and my grades are dropping, I felt like I was a disappointment. And the only way for me to replace that disappointment or to cover the disappointment I felt myself was to work, which is why I really valued the fact that I had a job, because say if I could not keep my grades up, at least I could work. At least I could do those type of things. I could, because my mother had bought me a car, full cash, after selling an investment it didn't work out basically. So she ended up selling it and she made some money, and she actually paid for my first car full in cash. Amazing blessing, and I'm really thankful for that. And I'm like, what you do is, get a job now, help pay for insurance when you can. I help pay for groceries. I bought things for myself. I was not always smart with the money. I also spent a lot, particularly on food and eating out. That was a bad idea. And I also actually paid for tuition out of pocket when I didn't have financial aid. I ended up earning it back again, so thank God for that. I ended up doing that, so that was good. But I learned a lot of lessons with that of managing money because I was not good at managing money. I actually ended up having credit cards, which I was able to pay off before. And now it's a different story because I don't have that job anymore. I had to replace it with DoorDash several months after the episode in November. When I lost that job, not lost, excuse me, I quit the job. I knew I had to quit the job. It was actually imperative I did. And the job was great. I loved the people there. My bosses were great. My coworkers were great. I was stressed out. I realized it was not the environment for me, but I learned a whole lot. I learned a lot of customer service. I'm thankful I got that job and I got the opportunity with no experience beforehand at age of 18. So that was amazing. But I lost it. So throughout um throughout high school and college, I felt like I had a bunch of losses, personal losses, and I felt ashamed about it. And to me, when I got my lupus diagnosis, it wasn't a loss. I didn't see it as a loss. I actually saw it as a failure in a way, which makes no sense because I didn't cause my own lupus, but I felt that I actually became more of a burden because now that means there's extra medical bills you got to pay. And when I saw the job, I actually did help pay some of my medical bills, which my mom was telling me not to worry too much about. But I'm thinking, Mom, there's no way you can be the only one paying for these medical bills. I also did not tell my father and my stepmom about it. It's like I was terrified to tell them about it. I didn't tell them about it until I even was diagnosed until after I came out of the psych ward. That was a big shock to them, on top of the other reason why I was in the psych ward, which was another major shock. And I felt like I was going insane. I felt like I was going crazy because I actually felt shameful about it. Now I know that was too much. That was not necessary. And I've gotten a lot of help with that. I've been through therapy, so that has helped a lot. And that is where I started my journey dealing with lupus. The full name is systemic lupus erythematosus. That's what it is. That's what the full name is. Mine in particular affects my lungs and my skin the most. That's what we found out. So when my flare was at its peak back in 2024, it was just a butterfly rash, but I also had chest pain and I had shortness of breath. And the fact that I was not in the gym was a big deal. In fact, and the dermatologist even said the gym may have actually been a mask, and it actually may have prevented me from having symptoms earlier. So now I know, and I've learned that fitness for me is a must. It's imperative. And for me in particular was weightlifting. That one, I did cardio too. I definitely did cardio, but weightlifting was definitely it for me. And I'm still trying to work my way back into that. Now that I went back into the gym this year, or even at home, I have some weights at home, so I do some weightlifting there. I use my body weight, and I try to do workouts in different ways to keep up with the fitness, because that was great. Even on days, I realized that there are times where I forget to take my medication for depression, anxiety, and I realized the fitter I was, the better I felt. And that's at least for me, that was what I noticed. It also has to do with diet as well. There's different things. Because another thing that this autoimmune disease has helped me understand and I learned this through like YouTube and my doctors, and explained to me the importance of vitamins and minerals, and learning from other different people who also have autoimmune conditions. That was a big one. A lot more people have autoimmune conditions than I thought, and a lot more people have lupus. Now that I know I have lupus, when I start talking about it, I start finding out other people also have lupus, or the conditions like rheumatoid arthritis, type 1 diabetes, Hashimoto's, multiple sclerosis, there's different types of disease of conditions. I even have some more facts about these that I learned that kind of shocked me about all these different conditions. The only person at that point who I really truly knew had a condition was my sister. My sister has Crohn's disease, and she was diagnosed with that since age 12 or 13. That disease is brutal. It is serious. And watching my sister go through that was hard. She still goes through it now. She still is dealing with it. She's been on chemotherapy level medications, and she's gone through so much pain. She's a trooper. I admire her strength, and it's unfortunate that she had that. But originally, she was the only one who had a condition, and that we did have to change some things. We had to change the way we eat because she can't even eat a lot of things. Her Crohn's disease, she literally has ulcers in her intestinal lining. That is terrifying. And it took multiple doctor's visits to figure that one out, and years to figure that one out. Because originally couldn't find out the first few times. And it wasn't until she went to emergency room more than once, and they really dug deep, and they got her colonoscopy. They found out, oh no, you have Crohn's disease, very rare disease, and also super rare around the world. And it's significantly higher rates of it here in the United States. That's a whole other conversation right there, because the United States itself has higher rates of autoimmune diagnosis in general. There's so much more on that I was learning that's really shocked me, and I'm thinking, and it's like, no wonder we have so many issues, or there's so many issues going on, because there's actually a lot of things that are not ideal when it comes to the food and the medical system here. We have great advancements, we have great things, we have lots of things to be access to, but not everyone's informed on it. I wasn't fully informed on it, and not everything is being taught, even if those things are available. And not everything's affordable. So that was another thing that I ended up learning. So even though I knew certain things from my sister's diagnosis, I had a lot more to learn after I was diagnosed. The only other, and as I said before, I had eczema since birth. I've nothing to do with eczema. In fact, many people have eczema. My dad used to have eczema. Had a cousin who used to have eczema, and they found ways to almost completely, like, in a way, cure it. They don't really deal with flare-ups anymore, or big major flare-ups. They may get a little thing here and there, but not too much. And they've learned, and I get to learn from them on how to take care of my eczema. But with that being said, this condition has taught me a lot. I've had to learn to watch what I eat. I didn't always watch what I eat. I eat junk food, or I would eat out. I would still eat healthy, but I would eat anything. And I also have allergies, but as long as I avoided those foods I'm allergic to, I was fine. And I was going to the gym, so I was actually burning the stuff off. Well, now that you're not going to the gym anymore because you were too sick to go, that's a whole different situation. I actually lost 20 pounds between September and November before the episode, because I actually could not eat. I couldn't eat, or I didn't feel like I could eat. I ate less and less and less, and I felt like I couldn't swallow properly. There was, and I even, like, after coming out, my period was delayed for a while. It was the first time ever where I went a whole month with no period. That has never happened before. And I was thinking, oh dang. I was dehydrated. I could barely cry. I couldn't even produce tears for a moment. That was something else. And I couldn't eat very well. Afterwards, I was getting better. I was not in school. I actually did join school the next semester, but a good thing for my college is that for most of December we're off. So that was the break I desperately needed. And I was doing class online the next semester. So I was getting better. I knew then I had some sensitivity. I even had to wear a sleeping mask when I was in the bed I was staying in, or wherever room I was staying in, because the sun was actually making my eyes hurt through the window, which was insane. My rashes were going away. They were healing, but that was a significant one. So I had to make sure I was wearing sunglasses and at least covering myself up and wearing at least SPF 50. Now I gotta move up to like SPF 70 at this point. But that's what I did. So I actually became accustomed to it, and I got better, and I was feeling so much better. The depression, anxiety did go down, and generally speaking, I was just glad to be alive. I was just glad to have help, to finally be comfortable to ask for help. and have people, different adults around me, my family members, and the medical professionals there informing me of things. And I was also glad to have resources like technology and YouTube. The internet is a blessing. The internet can be crazy. Social media can be nuts. I've actually had worse anxiety by being on the internet because I was on social media too much and in the comment section too much, watching too many things. But apart from that, I've also learned a whole lot, and YouTube University has been great. I learned a whole lot of different things with this, and so I got to learn a whole lot about taking care of your body, autoimmune diseases, and how many people are actually dealing with these conditions, and realizing I'm not the only person that has it. And definitely, I'm one of tens of millions of people around the globe who do have depression and anxiety, and on top of that, have a condition, and how these conditions actually can cause depression and anxiety and can influence those things. Some people have actually developed sickness because they were depressed for so long, and because they were stressed out for so long. So there's that too, because they had trauma, or because they were abused. One thing about, I'll say, a big thing I learned about lupus is that a lot of people who have gotten lupus or were diagnosed with it, their trigger or their rash happened right after a traumatic event, or it was drug induced, or it was pregnancy induced. 9 out of 10 people who diagnosed with lupus are women, and that's a large part to do with the fact that it's not linked. Estrogen has a very great influence on the immune system. I even recently learned that that estrogen actually, in a way, boosts immune system activity. So if the immune system is not balanced, it's not regulated properly, and your estrogen goes up a lot, your immune system will then be more active. But if your immune system is also attacking both the good and the bad cells, that means if your immune system is really active, that means it's also attacking your good cells and your bad cells at the same simultaneously at a much, you know, higher rate. So it could be detrimental to your body. So while the estrogens role and your regulating your immune system is very, very important, because it actually helps you fight infections. As I've learned and did some research, that it actually does help you do that. If you're someone who with an autoimmune condition, or with high inflammation, it's sort of the opposite, and that's what's happened with me and my sister, and that's another thing you gotta worry about. So hormones are a big deal in that case. And for the men also would have that same issue too, because if they have lupus as well. So that's why a lot of us have to take immunosuppressants. And so that was another thing I know I got to watch out for. I have a rheumatologist that I visit, and they do my blood work. I have to do my blood work a couple times a year, just to make sure things are going well. Go to the eye doctor to make sure my medication is not affecting my vision, because that's one thing you have to worry about, is toxicity. Um, and watching my daily activity, and watching my environment in general has helped a lot. As the year went by last year, 2025, um, I still felt uneasy because I didn't have a job anymore. I didn't have money. I even made the mistake. Well, not really a mistake, but I did it too early. I ordered a new laptop and phone because my phone was actually acting up. My laptop was slowly degrading. I had a laptop for almost 4 years, and I was thinking, okay, I need a new one. And I was thinking, the way I thought of it at this point, because I did have my financial aid back, and I had Pell Grant back. Okay, I can use whatever's left over, because there was gonna be something left over, and use it to pay for the laptop, and I even met the phone, and then while finding another way to make some money, which, because I started to do DoorDash as well in June, but I also did it through Affirm and Catapult. Big mistake. I genuinely needed those devices to be replaced. I genuinely did, because a laptop is what I use for school, because I actually have to have it for school. and or else I'm gonna have to go travel to the campus all the time. And my other laptop, which I used for years, was degrading. It was a great laptop, but oof. And so I was like, okay, use what you got for the laptop so you can use it for school, because that's what I was thinking of doing. I ended up dropping the class that summer because I realized I was not going to be able to handle it. So I obviously didn't get financial aid then. So I'm like, okay, well, it is what it is. I already have the devices. So I'm like, at least do DoorDash. And not just to do DoorDash to pay for those, the laptop and the phone, to pay for medical bills, to pay for things I needed for myself. Because in my mind, I still could not get over the idea that now I was dependent on my mother for money, which she got on me for, because she's like, I'm your mother. You're sick. You genuinely need to take a break. And I understood that. And when it came to my father, I'm very uncomfortable even asking him about money because of certain things that happened in the past. Even though he tells me to ask him if I need something, I just didn't feel comfortable. I need to have a job. That's just what I thought. I thought I need to have a job. So I started doing DoorDash. And then it was great. I was making money. I was able to make some payments. I didn't make all the payments, and now obviously I'm paying for it now. It just showed my credit, but yeah, I was making some payments. And then I was able to get back into school the next semester in fall, so that was great. And while doing all of that, over time throughout the whole year, I was fine. My lupus was actually generally fine. It started getting some weight back, and I thought it may be a little too much. Because I realized what the issue for me is not personally, whatever for my body, for my inside. If I gain more fat, I will feel it on the inside, in my inside, because I would feel heavy. So the less fat I have, the better. So the weight is actually not the problem. It's actually the fat for me. Because when I weigh, let's say I went up in weight when I was in the gym and weightlifting, everything was great. It was fine. It was all great. That's what I learned about. That's what I learned for me. That was a new thing. And I went through this for the year. I was doing DoorDash and I loved it. And I was like, thank God I have a way to make some money, because dang, I need to make some money. I even got paid by my cousin a couple times to do drawings for her, because I started. She knew I drew. I like to do graphic drawings, and I like to draw all sorts of different things. It's like animals, dragons. While I was growing up, it was horses, dragons, and then when I got into cars, it was cars. So, and I love drawing them all the time. And so she asked me to do portraits for her friend and for herself, and I got paid for that. So I'm like, okay, that's another way to make some money. So that was great. And I also got opportunity from somebody in the family to work on websites. A website for a company. I work for a health and wellness website right now called Mustard Seed Mondays, and the website's called www.mustardseedmondays.com. In which we talk about food, health and wellness, diseases, and helping people learn about nutrition and taking care of the body. It's not like necessarily accredited, and we do have a disclaimer that this is not to replace your doctor. Definitely be talking to your doctor, but the people who founded this was 4 years ago are nutritionists, dietitians, chefs, and a graphic designer and professionals. So that was pretty cool, and I got to work with them and help build their website. And so they basically hired me as a web developer for them. So even though I didn't have an internship, I knew I still got what I wanted through this job, which I still have to this day. So I'm just like, thank God for that. So I was, as this last year went by, different things that I thought I lost, or I thought I lost my opportunity for, or I thought I was too late to get. The fact that I didn't graduate yet, the fact that I needed an internship, the fact that I didn't have a job, I felt like I didn't accomplish things, even though I did. I just felt like I was behind for a while. Slowly and over time, I ended up getting the things I wanted. And I also felt bad because I felt like when I worked hard, things didn't work out. Because when I say I want to fall short, and I did start working hard, I would still fall short, and I was so disappointed. Or in this case, with the lupus, I got sick, because that semester that I first got diagnosed, I actually was doing so much better, And I was on my way to finally getting the grade in the calculus class I wanted, because I already passed it, but I needed to get a higher grade. And my professors were very helpful. They were helping me out, and they even said one of them, especially for my calculus class, because I was actually going to tutoring over and over again. She said she saw me progressing, but unfortunately, I was in the hospital in urgent care multiple times, and I could not. It wasn't working. And so by the time I finally got up to actually work hard for something, my body my body just said, no, you need to stop. And that was devastating for me. But the year after, I felt much better, and it was actually really good. A lot of things did happen at the beginning of the year, but as 2025 went by, I was able to heal a lot. I feel so much better in many ways. And that was good. As 2026 comes in, things were still doing pretty good. I was basically about finished with the website. So that was great. I even got into the Handshake AI Fellowship. AI, I'm a bit scared of, but also I'm in IT, so it's kind of vital for me to at least understand how it works. And even I don't really like using it too much, but I also want to understand what we're getting into, because AI is in every almost every facet of technology. So I do believe it's important to at least understand it and at least be able to know when it's being used, to not to at least protect yourself, because I do believe that there's any tool can be used against somebody, or can be used in a good way or a bad way. And even if you don't necessarily stand for AI, it is good to at least learn. I think it's good to learn it, and like in my opinion, and to be able to know how to navigate it in the world in which it's going to be used everywhere. Because AI has actually been around for decades. It's not. It's just that now it's advanced so much farther than it did before, and it's actually replacing jobs. So that's another big one. And as someone who's studying IT, you got to learn it. So that was a nice good opportunity to have, at least have that fellowship. So at least I have some idea of how AI works in a way, training it, and how it learns pattern recognition, because it's really AI is basically high powered pattern recognition at a super fast level, which seems to in some cases rival human intelligence, and which is why it can be used to replace certain jobs. Even the job I have, I'm a web developer. AI can replace that job, and I know that, which is why I've actually been finding other ways to make some money. Hopefully, that will not be replaced by AI. I'm an artist, so I still do art on paper. I also paint, and I'm also graphic. I also do graphic design. I learned that through high school. And for my condition, because I also because I'm trying to watch my health and my skin, I even started to learn to make soap. So that's another thing I'm also thinking of doing, and hopefully use that. I can make some money selling it too. But also, that's also just big thing for me, and just for my body, because you can't always rely on your job or rely on things to be sold in the supermarket. You also can go back to the way things used to be done before and learn how to make it yourself. And that soap has been pretty beneficial for me in terms of like lower irritation. I haven't had a breakout with it. I thought I was reacting to it at one point from the coconut, because this was coconut based, but it actually wasn't that. It's actually been really nice, and I was able to make a whole batch, and I have soap for months, so that was really nice. But apart from that, I was going off on a tangent. I was doing DoorDash, and I was on campus twice a week for my discrete mathematics class, which is a class I was retaking. I also failed that class past semester, in a large part due to the fact that I had another massive flare. This one, it was actually a string of multiple flares. What I didn't realize, and what we ended up learning, with by going to the rheumatologist and going to the dermatologist, and even to a second dermatologist that the rheumatologist and dermatologist referred, both knew, no, is that I have a blistering form of lupus. As in, I'm so sensitive to the UV light from the sun that if I stay in it for just 15 to 30 minutes, I will develop pustules. I don't know if you can see, those are some pustules I have. They're like little bubbles, and I get them on my arm, and I get them in like little spots. And let's just say I had that all over my body. Whenever you can see the lights on the best. You can see over my neck. It was all over my face. It was on my ears. It was on my bottom. It was on my legs. I was wearing shorts. Shouldn't have been wearing shorts. I was door dashing at night, but also in the daytime. When I walk on the campus, it was in the daytime with the heat of the sun. And I live in Georgia. I go to Kennesaw State University. Beautiful campus, and I love walking on it. And I'm someone who I also garden because I also started to grow vegetables. And I love being outside. I love the sun. The sun is one of my favorite. Like, I don't like lights, except for when it comes to the sun. The sun, I think, is amazing. Not anymore for me, though. I've learned that now. And yeah, I was in fact wearing sunscreen almost every single day. That was not enough at all. So I was suffering. I was getting cuts. I would start to bleed. I would start to leak out. It's kind of gross. So much, even on my bottom and down there, because the rashes can go everywhere. This never happened before. It started at the very top of my head, went down. I also lost some hair. Also, hair loss is another thing that you can get with lupus as well. So it looks like you have alopecia. And this is the second time it's happened. And this was devastating for me because I actually had grown my hair inches longer back in 2024. And during the traumatic event I had, I also ripped my hair out, which was very devastating because I basically ripped out all the growth. But I also lost the hair that was for my lupus, and I had a bald spot. This time, I almost developed another bald spot, and I had to get my hair cut down. I'm someone who's tried to grow my hair. I originally had to cut back in 8th grade because of eczema, so I had to struggle with my scalp. I can grow my hair. My hair actually grows really fast. My skin does not always agree with me, though. And I've had to learn to manage that, and I did, and it was working until the lupus flare. So that was a big one, and also the panic attack as well. And so I had to cut my hair again. I didn't want to, but I was glad I did because it's so much better. Now my hair is even. I'm growing it back. It's growing back almost the same exact rate it was growing before, so I'm actually back on track to where I was before. So I'm hoping to get back my afro, my little afro that I used to have, and get it to a bigger afro. That's what I'm really looking for. And keeping, using natural products, using products my stepmother made for me. She makes skincare. And so that has worked out very well. Using oils, natural butters, and using being hydrated all the time, and focusing on vitamins. Those things for sure. And I basically was losing hair. So I had to get it cut. But it started here, went down my face, went on my ears again, and everywhere. It was inside my mouth. Because my lupus is also kind of it's like cutaneous, as in is dealing with the skin. It has to do with any place of the skin, including the inside of your mouth. So I had sores in my mouth, and I could not eat most foods. I had to eat like a baby. Pureed foods, things like soup, stuff like that. I would even go days where I didn't eat, or I didn't eat until like dinner, because it hurt that much. I lost 30 pounds this year because of that. I also purposefully did intermittent fasting, went back to the gym, and I actually dieted because I originally thought it was because I had too much fat in my body, because I knew that fat stressed my body and also caused inflammation, at least for me. Even when I lost the weight, the flares kept coming. So then I realized, it actually was not necessarily the flares. And then, if anything, the fat for me affected my lungs, because I also get pleurisy when I have high amounts of inflammation. My antibodies are high. So, and I was also on medication for that too. I even thought the medication was too strong for me. That wasn't the case. It was the sun. We found that out later. No, the sun was the main culprit in this case, because I wasn't that depressed before the flares. During the flares, I actually became depressed, and you thought the medication that I was on, it was Benlysta, was causing depression. No, my flare-ups were just that. They were that potent. The Benlysta was fine. Although I'm not on it, I'm on a different one, but yeah, it was fine. And those flares, the reason why I was multiple is because I was outside too often, so it was back to back to back. That's why it came down my body in like sections. And I had so many cuts and blisters that I actually had to go. My mother ordered me pads to be put on the beds in the couch. I'm in my bedroom right now. I'm in the basement as well, and be on the couch, so I wouldn't stain everything because I was getting stuff everywhere through my clothes onto the surfaces. I felt disgusting. I knew I wasn't dirty. I was showering all the darn time. I was actually scrubbing too hard because I used like an African net sponge and a washcloth, and I stayed too long in the shower actually for my skin type. I didn't realize my skin was becoming so sensitive, almost like a baby, that I was irritating it even more. So that was another thing I learned, and I had to use this. I've been using this for almost 2 months. I finally was able to actually get off of it, and I'm like, thank God, because that was a big deal. This thing challenged my faith a lot, and it challenged my relationship with God, and I actually learned to trust Him more in this case, and just go with it because I'm going to accept the fact I have this condition, and so I had no other choice but to just learn to live with it, but also learn while using the solutions we have, the doctors, the medical, and all the medical resources we have, but also learn to take care of my body better, manage stress better, eat better, and to stop stressing because I was super stressed out, and they were telling me, please stop doing that because for many people with autoimmune diseases, I'm saying it again, stress is actually a trigger for a lot of their symptoms. So that was a big thing. And the thing is, there's stress everywhere. Lots of people deal with stress. Most people don't have autoimmune diseases, but those people, even if they don't have autoimmune diseases, they can still get sick off of stress. People everywhere get sick. There are healthy people like athletes, people who work out, who have developed diseases because they were stressed out too much, because they were in environments that were just not conducive to humans' well-being or any living being's well-being. And that could be from their job or from the area they live in, if they're in like a war-torn area, or if they're in an area with high pollution, or if they're in an area with just a bunch of crime, or an area with, you know, lots of cars, lots of industrial activity, lots of danger, or pollen, environmental factors. If you're allergic to all the trees, allergic to the pollen, we were even worried that I was reacting to the pollen outside. I have seasonal allergies, but because I was in the garden all the time in the backyard, it wasn't just the sun. It wasn't just that. It could have also been the debris. It could have also been what was in the air, smoke, any type of thing. So they say if you have lupus or any autoimmune conditions, do not smoke. And secondhand smoke is terrible for you. Doing drugs, terrible for you. Even alcohol, moderately, yes, but you're actually better off just avoiding alcohol altogether because these things can really stress the body. What you eat can stress the body. Sugar, dairy, highly processed foods, those things contribute to inflammation. And I've had to learn how to replace those foods with other ones that were more plant-based. I'm actually going way more plant-based in general with my diet, so I'm not suffering, so I'm not feeling pain. The joint pain and the swelling go down with medication, but they also go down when I eat better and I'm being fit, and I'm managing stress and not spiraling into an anxiety episode or depressive episode. All those things got to be regulated, and I'm trying to find ways to manage that. I journal now, regularly journal. I used to not. I did it, middle school. I stopped all through high school and college, and now my therapist and other people have gotten me back into journaling, and so I'm actually journaling now. It's been very helpful. I actually write down a whole bunch of things because it helps me remember stuff and process my thoughts. And I do that on top of prayer and going to church. Even though my relationship with God I felt like it was going down the toilet, and I felt like I was distanced from them, or that He was mad at me. He was not mad at me. It was me who thought that. I was so deep into my thoughts of rumination. I also did a lot of maladaptive dreaming to distract from my depression, anxiety, and stress. Now, I'm actually quite content. I've actually been happy despite all that's happened this year, I've been the happiest I've been in a long time, which is a blessing. I don't think I've been this happy in a very, very long time. I'm actually content. I'm not freaking out about things anymore. I don't sweat things as much as I used to. I used to sweat things a lot, and it was awful. And I could see I was stressing my family out because they were watching me be depressed and watching me be anxious, and that's not healthy for them, especially not my sister. She has had to learn to stay away from stresses because she has a disease in which stress can literally cause her stomach and her intestinal lining and her whole body to fatigue. It literally can leave her bedridden. Now for me and I have lupus, stress can also leave me bedridden. And the fact that it can do that is terrifying. But I shouldn't be terrified. I shouldn't be scared. I've learned that no, this now makes you more aware of your triggers and aware of what is actually going on into your body. Because even if you don't have an autoimmune condition, stress is going to affect you at some point. It's going to do it, and it has. And there are people who have developed cancer, people who have developed all sorts of different conditions, and stress was in fact was a factor of that. And the stress could have been from what you ate, where you've been, who you're around, the relationship you've been in. People, you get sick. Stress can kill you. Basically, that's what it is. Stress can kill you. And depression, anxiety can also kill you. And I mentioned a traumatic event that was in November. There was actually a panic attack combined with a suicide attempt. A suicide attempt that I decided to do the same day. It wasn't even planned. It was the same day. Obviously, I survived it. I survived it. I came out unscathed, and I actually lost my car because I crashed my car when I did that. I crashed my car into a ditch in an attempt to make sure that it was immediate and painless. I'm still here. And I thank God I'm here. I'm glad it didn't work out. I do regret doing it. But I thought I was a burden to my family, and I thought that there was no way back because I felt like I had gone too far. And I actually felt like it was, despite knowing that this would hurt my family really deeply, even my friends, that I was gone. I thought, you know what? It's better off I'm not here because at least I'm one less person that has medical bills to pay, one less person to disappoint my family. Even though they weren't disappointed with me, I was disappointed with myself, and I hated myself. And I hated the things that I thought were wrong with me, when really I just needed some help. And some of the things that I thought were wrong with me were not wrong with me. They're just things that were just my quirks. The things that I'm actually getting evaluated for so I can understand my personality and my thinking and my mind better. I didn't like it. And so that was interesting. But I thank God that he saved me from that. I thank God that car was so intact. It was totaled, but it was so intact that I wasn't crushed in it. I wasn't even crushed. I didn't even get one broken bone, not one sprained ankle, no dislocated joint anywhere. Nothing. So I'm very lucky about that. And I was able to get someone on the road. They asked me to call the cops for me. The cops brought me to the ER. And it turned out my mother had put in a missing persons report because I was actually the night after I did it. I did it the afternoon of November 12th. I was found midday of November 13th, 2 hours away from my house. I went and just drove off to nowhere trying to find some place to end it. And I went about 65, 70 miles off of the highway into a ditch. There's a crash report, so I'm actually in the system. And it was in Clayton County. Got picked up by the cops. Took me to the emergency room. They helped me out. I was transferred to the psych ward. And the rest is history from there. And I realized, well, Catherine, you tried to end it, and it didn't work. So the only choice you have now is to just keep on going. That's the only choice you've got. And so I learned how to trust God again. I learned to just let it go and to just have faith. And I'm so glad. Oh, excuse me for a moment. Okay, good. I'm so glad that I learned a lot from that, but also that I kind of got a second chance in a way. I thought I was too far gone, and I realized, no, you weren't, because there's many people who have gone through suicide. There are people who have done multiple attempts of suicide. There are people who have done multiple attempts harming themselves, different things like that. I even knew people sort of close to me And I knew this, what I was doing was damaging, could be damaging to my family, but I was in so much pain and I hated myself that deeply, and I really thought they would be better off without me. And so, that being said, I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad I got the help I needed. I also was too afraid to ask for help in some ways because I felt ashamed. I learned not to be ashamed to ask for help. Please, like, and also for anyone else, please get help if you need help. And also, I have to remember there was mental health resources at my college I'm paying for. I was too busy focusing on the job and school and other things, and just focused on my depression, anxiety, and the fact that I got diagnosed is that I didn't even think to go back to the school to go get a therapist. I ended up getting a therapist somewhere else, at Life Stance Health, which has been really good, and with the help of my aunt, and so that helped a lot. But that's what was happening, and so excuse me, I'm liturgy. This is also part of one of the things I've got to deal with. That was really weird, but yeah, I now journal more. I pray a lot more. I meditate from like reading the Bible a lot more, and I also started to learn through the church, through the people in my church, because the people in my church were actually very helpful. I'm lucky I have the church. I got the church we got. This is, as I said before, before the episode, the church is one of the only places in which I actually felt comfortable. I may not have said it before, but that's why I'm gonna say that. It was the only place I feel like I could escape my depression, anxiety, or which my depression, anxiety was not at the front of my mind. I actually felt great being there. So, and when I even talked to people about something I'm going through, the people, they prayed for me. They understood things. In fact, a lot of people at my church also went through similar things, and so they actually shared their experiences with me. And I felt like, I felt much better knowing that they went through these things. Because at our church, they don't shy away from the type of things. They talk about mental health. They talk about suicide. The pastor in my church is big on addressing suicide, and has had multiple sermons about it, and addressing the issues that the fact that a lot of people, a lot of Christians, or not just Christians, but a lot of religions, they don't always deal with mental health and anxiety and depression and suicide. And also he also advocates, and also advocate and make sure people know, if you need help, please get help. There's no shame in getting medical help and going to a doctor. There's no shame in going to a therapist. In fact, you should do it because you need help. Because while you do believe that God can help you with your mental health, we also believe that God, if for those who believe in God, those believe that, also believe that the doctors and the medical system is a resource that can help you with your issues. Prayer alone is not just enough. For some to say, okay, it can be enough. Oh, well, it can't be enough. Fasting and prayer is all you need. No, that does not work for everybody. That's not end all be all. In fact, I actually felt shame because I thought that if I prayed enough, I should be able to pray away my mental health problems, pray away my anxiety, pray away my eczema, even pray away my problems. No, prayer actually did help in certain cases. It actually did work. Not when it comes to those, though. It was at least the way I was, or I don't know what was happening. For me, I think it was something deeper. Some of my depression and anxiety was actually rooted in some things that were actually traumatic, and some things that I actually really needed therapy for. Serious therapy for. So yeah, I'm glad I go to a church that encourages people to get help, encourages people to not only pray with the Bible and also talk to the other people, but to go and use the resources that are out in the world, and to meditate, to take a break, and to not hide. They're very big on that, and I'm like, thank God, they're big on that. And so that was great. My best friend also has gone through things before, not necessarily suicide, but she has had someone close to who's attempted suicide, and she's dealt with depression and anxiety as well. So she was a great help to me. That was very helpful, and she has stuck by me through all my issues, and has been like a sister to me. Apart from my sister and my brother, who have been great to me as well. So I thank God for them. And I had also some other friends as well who are very understanding and have also like shared some experiences that they've gone through. And I even learned about my parents who have also gone through some things. My dad even who had suicidal thoughts, and my mother when they were much younger. So they've helped me with that too. My dad has also been in a ward before, so I kind of felt a bit better because I'm like, oh, I'm not the only one in the family who's been in the ward, and there's also been, a couple other people too. And I even found out one of my former coworkers has actually been in a psychiatric hospital, and plenty of other people too. It's something that's happened. A lot of people have had to get help, whether involuntary or voluntarily. And it doesn't matter religion, what demographic, what socioeconomic group you come from. Anybody can suffer from mental health issues. Anybody can have a disability. Anybody can go through those things. It does not matter. It does not discriminate. So thank God for that. And yeah, I've learned a lot from those things, and I feel so much better now. I feel great. I feel happy. Even though I don't have like a full paying job, even I'm a web developer. We're not on payroll yet because we're just like really starting to get bigger. But the company's waiting for possibly maybe getting an investor, or possibly they're finding a way to monetize. They will be having a YouTube channel, so I'll be also be helping them with that YouTube channel and this one just for me. And so we are praying and hoping that that can be a great opening to many things. But the main thing is to help people learn about wellness. And I realized that this has now actually become a part of what I will be doing for the rest of my life. And I'm glad it has been, because I realized this has actually benefited me a lot. And it's made it clear for me as to what I can do to help other people. Because I also to say the other thing that also I find joy in, and I find happiness in, is helping other people. I tend to be happy when other people are happy. That used to be a problem for me, because if my family wasn't happy, or people were not satisfied, I would be upset and actually get sad. And I would try to do things to make sure they can be happy, even though I can't always control people's happiness. In fact, there are times where what they were unhappy about or they were struggling from, there's nothing I could do about it. But I was depressed watching them being struggle. I was depressed watching my parents be tired from coming back home from work. I was depressed watching my sister suffer from her disease. I was depressed watching my brother, in which I thought he was alone. I thought he felt weird. Sometimes cases he is alone because he's only a boy in this house, and I felt like, dang, I'm not there enough for him. Turns out he actually has a lot more friends than I thought, and there were things that he was actually able to talk about, and he also went to therapy as well. So that was good. But I was like, realized I felt like I could not be there for my siblings as enough, even though they say I was there. And so, that was a lot. But yeah, now I learn not to, like, you can't base your feelings off of other people all the time. The only thing I could control is my emotions to a point. And when the emotions I know that I have are negative, I go straight to my habits or my hobbies. I go back to them. I didn't draw for years. Now I'm back to drawing. And I listen to music, I walk, I garden. Now I can only garden at night though, at least safely. Or I have to wear UV protective clothing. I got some my family members have ordered me some UV protective clothing so that I, can go outside now. I wear hats, I wear sunglasses. I even have gloves so I can drive. So I'm covered. Just covered. I was able to get some cute things so I can still be cute. I ordered some things off Amazon, but I also maybe I can still shop in the regular stores. I just have to make sure it's like jeans, sweatpants, or very thick things, and long sleeves almost all the time. And I can wear the short sleeves, or I can not have to dress up so much at night. But that's only at night. I'm almost never out at night unless I'm doing DoorDash. So that's an interesting one. But there's ways around it. I just stay inside most of the time. And I've been going back to crocheting, because I also crocheted when I was younger, back in elementary school, or back into that. So that has been pretty fun. And I've been back to doing the things that, made me happy. And I wish I went back to them sooner, because I feel great doing them. And it's also, there's talents that I've had before, and I'm like, Catherine, let's go back into it. And I talk about making money. These are things I can use to make money. So, even better reason to go back to those things. And I'm glad I was able to do those type of things. And I also like to talk, as I'm doing now. I'm also using this YouTube channel as a way to talk. So talk and yap to whoever wants to hear me yap, and just go on full yap sessions because I love to yap a whole lot. I also love to research. I do research for as a web developer, and I also do research, and I like to yap about what I learned about through research. So that's another thing. This is like therapy for me. And hopefully this could be soothing for some other people too who like it too. I love watching YouTubers. I love watching all kinds of people, web developers, scientists, doctors, moms, dads, talented people, all kinds of talented people like singers, DJs. I love EDM and DJs. I love listening to people, watching documentaries and watching movies, and learning about people and cultures. So this is, I think that has also inspired me to start something like this too, because those things have actually been very therapeutic, and they've been very helpful for me when I was watching the things that were beneficial to for learning. And so there's one of there's something there, and one of the last things I would also mention, and as I come to a close, is that I've learned a lot. But it's basically the summary. I learned a lot these years. I learned a whole lot. There's still some healing to do, but I'm glad I at least had a good year and a half of a lot of intense healing, a lot of things I went through. I feel so much better. I am even so being able to come off of some of my medication, because there are days I forget. I shouldn't be forgetting. But I also was with my psychiatrist. We agreed that I could actually start to taper off, and I've actually been pretty good with my hobbies without the medication. So that's been great. I still keep it on hand, obviously, but I've learned to go back to healthy management skills for my mental health. For time management, I used to procrastinate a lot. I don't do it the same way anymore. In fact, I'm doing much better with for the most part. And yeah, a lot of things are just great, really great. I've gotten over the fact that I haven't graduated yet. I'm gonna graduate till next year, and who knows? I've had to take a break, so that is what it is. My mother didn't get her degree, her bachelor's degree, until 2 years ago. Was it 2024 actually? She originally got married, wasn't in college, stopped being in college because to take care of my siblings and I. She was a stay-at-home mom for 8 years. Then they divorced, and then she went back to work. And she actually worked beforehand too, but this time it was different. She had to go back to work, did some investment, did more work, and then went back to college. And now she's working on her master's. So I'm like, yay, mommy! So she's back into that. All while doing work. She's worked her butt off. My dad, he got his associates, but he's also in trades. He was an electrician, and now he owns his own business. Works his butt off. My stepmom was a bartender for years and years and years. Went to college too. Did social work, but was mostly did bartending, and now she has her own business as well. In fact, each of them have actually had their own business. So they all have worked hard, and they have had different paths. And they also show me that there's different ways to get into certain places. I've even thought about the fact that I have never had a boyfriend yet. That's okay. Lots of people have not had boyfriends yet, or girlfriends. My stepmother didn't get married until 41. There's that. Now she's in a happy relationship with my dad. And there are a lot of people who've lost their job. There are people with PhDs losing their jobs because of AI and technology and the economy. And I'm watching it everywhere. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And so I realized that really anything, you can lose anything at any moment. You can lose your life. You can lose your job. You can lose your money. You can lose your spouse. You can lose your children. Anything could happen. There's nothing, I can't get mad if something happens to me necessarily, because you don't know. Just because you do, I have a thought in my head, like, if I do things right, things shouldn't happen. It's not how that, and I know that's not how life works. And I've accepted that. I'm like, that's just not how it works. I just learned to try to make the best out of situations that I do have, that I am in. And that has been great, actually. So I'm glad that I've been able to do that and able to learn that way. I'm like much better. And so thank you all for listening. I thank you for this opportunity to be able to talk to people. And I hope that this could possibly be, space or a way for people to listen, hear someone else talk about their condition and their story. It was not the only one. And I will also continue to make some more videos just to talk about all kinds of things as it pertains to my condition, as it pertains to life and career. And I am, as someone who researches for my job, I also would like to talk about the research I've been doing and I've been learning about, because I am very interested and curious to seeing how the medical system, but also um, how we as humans, as people, or society, are dealing with the sicknesses and the illnesses that we're going through and the environmental factors. Because that's a big thing we're talking about. And it's something that is very important, and are things that um, I've realized that if we focus on it more and we invested more into it, we could be a whole lot better. We could feel a whole lot better. And even if it's not the whole society, at least if we did it individually, or if we were able to, you know, invest in it more individually for those who can, that could really, really help a lot of people. And so I'm glad to be able to do this. I'm glad for this opportunity, and I thank you all for listening. And I hope you guys have a great one. See you guys next time.